evening, friends, and a warm welcome to the WAF Guru live series. Today, we are holding the WAF CFO Roundtable. We're in the month of March, and we've got together the top CFOs to discuss a very relevant and pertinent topic: best practices of financial management in the COVID era. And at this point, I'd request Team WAF to please share the program details.
So I hope everybody can see the screen. It's being shared. Yeah, can you please confirm if you can see the screen?
Yeah, it's visible.
Yes, it's visible.
So friends, this is part of the WAF Gurus Live episode 19. And WAF Gurus Live is something that we had started within a week of the lockdown last year in March. And within 4 months from starting, we got 1 million plus views across 125 countries. And we cover topics like financial management, procurement, supply chain, mental health, physical health, how to fight COVID, vehicle after sales readiness, everything, legal, compliances. We covered everything. And of course, this is the month of March, and what can be a better topic than to have a WAF CFO roundtable? So, of course, we have the theme is best practices of financial management in the COVID era, and we have prolific CFOs to power this program today. So we have Ms. Maheen Lampwala. She is the CFO at Faurecia India, one of the leading companies in sustainable technologies and smart cockpit, as they say, and various clean tech. And we have Mr. Puneet Sabharwal. He is the CFO at Citroën India, a company which is all set, all ready for their stellar or Stellantis launch, if I would say, in a month's time. And they've been working very hard. So I'm sure Puneet will share a lot of things on, how they have been working in a startup phase. And we have Mr. Anders Hager. He's the EVP and CFO at Volvo Eicher CV, and he's been holding his position for a very long time at the organization. And we will, hear from him how he has been managing innovatively, balancing the European headquarters, the Indian requirements, and it shall be a nice, to listen to him. Then we have Mr. Surendra Agarwal. He's the CFO at Group Landmark, one of the leading, probably the biggest automotive retail group in the country. Surendra, correct me if I think already you already crossed 100 dealerships, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah. The showroom and then workshop put together. Yeah.
Wow. So you already hit your century. So that's Mr. Surendra Agarwal, and of course, Mr. Chandan Goyal. Yes, the introduction says he's the co-founder of Blue Consulting, but he is also a best-selling author. And recently, he had done this webinar where for 2,000 plus CFOs on cost saving. So we shall be looking forward to great tips from you, Chandan, on cost saving, because that's what everyone wants to, Though we also discussed that how people want to spend. Consumer is sick of saving also, but businesses can never go sick of it, I'm sure. And of course, it's me, at World Auto Forum. And of course, our friends across the community, across the world are watching us live on WAF TV, which is our channel on the web. And, it's just a Google away. You just need to Google WAF TV and you'll reach it. Something on our annual partners, friends, not explaining them would be doing gross injustice to them as well as to us. So we have our OEM gold partners. We have Morris Garages, one of the leading iconic British car brands. They're going to be celebrating their century, 100 years very soon, and launched in India recently. And they have really taken the Indian market by storm. All right, then we have Volkswagen. Volkswagen is one of the biggest car makers across the globe. They have 120 plus manufacturing facilities, and they sell their vehicles in more than 150 countries. And the cars are known for the solid build. Then we have Gallups Motors. Gallups is one of the leading automotive retail chains in the country, and they represent several brands. And they are headquartered at Ahmedabad. Then Focus International, Focus Engineering, Focus Dubai. They are into consulting, auditing, training, especially for vehicle after sales business, which is the cash bringing business for the automotive. Then we have K2B. K2B stands for Knowledge to Business, and it's one of the leading training and learning companies of the country. And they're known for their blended learning and experiential learning. And in fact, during the lockdown, this company, friends, had launched free e-learning courses for corporates so that they stay focused, they stay stable, and the employees, people, and their families have stable mental health. So hats off to them. Then, of course, Motor Uncle. Motor Uncle is a web app. It's part of the World Auto Forum family. It is for the confused car buyer and the hassled car service customer. It's like a trip advisor of the car industry. Then we have Jubilant, part of the Jubilant Bhartiya group. They also are into automotive retail and they represent brands like MG, Audi, and they have their own used car business called Cars Collective. By the way, used cars, pre-owned cars have done rocking business during the lockdown and also after that. And our media partners, Patriot, a newspaper with a fine lineage, more than 6 decades back, was launched by Bharat Ratna Aruna Asaf Ali ji, our revered freedom fighter. And by the way, all the learnings and key takeaways of this CFO Roundtable also we shall publish as a full page ad in Patriot newspaper and also disseminate through WAF TV and all our social media properties. The crux, the key takeaway, which people can learn, get inspired and implement, because WAF is all about direct to action. And Expo Sim. Expo Sim is our virtual events platform partner. So, it's like you can do your virtual programs, expos, exhibitions, everything here. And you can set it up within minutes. You don't even need a mobile app and it is device agnostic. So this is about our partners. Now, straight away, let's come to the points where we are here to discuss, just the cues, which we have received from our community from all over the world. So normal to new normal to an evolved normal. So key learnings from the journey of 2020 to 2021. Then 2020, a year which tested us all in an unprecedented way. Nobody can say that the year did not affect them or did not leave them without any negative connotation. Yeah, Mr. Mukesh Ambani could say that, but yeah, there are exceptions. And how we scaled back the operations, how we balanced financial health and employee health. Then what is the finance department of the future? As we always get inspired by our managing director, our board. So this possibly was the time when we could really fine tune, align our processes, technology, innovations, and people, because at the end of the day, it's this last P, the people who have to do everything and adjust, accept, and conform. Then finance department powering the business strategy and ops, and not just being one department in the corner, just giving permissions or setting budgets, but actually actively participating in the business. Then the culture of reducing the break-even time, the reducing the cost, managing P&L, how to make it functional and department agnostic. So that, like people say, hey, every department should have a sales perspective. Why can't every department have these perspectives too? Because money saved is money earned, and how smartly you can manage it. Then how did we really tackle the efficiency drainers and the layers in the organization, and how it took it as an opportunity to fix them. Then one's own financial health and also suppliers, customers, the concept of one ecosystem, one family concept. And, towards the end, if we can have, our top 3 key takeaways, best practices for 2021 and beyond. And looking in hindsight, I know it's very easy to say in hindsight, but what could we have done different in 2019 or 2020? So with that, we start the discussion, and the flow would be, we can take, 2 to 3 minutes as our opening remarks. Then we do one more round of the similar duration. And towards the end, we give our closing remarks. And in between, if you get any brainwave, you have some point, just say it, because later we might forget. So starting with Puneet, who are all set. I'll just stop sharing my screen. So let's begin with Puneet because they're just about to have a stellar launch and they've been working on it for a long time. And the concepts of break even, reducing cost, also putting in resources, how Corona came in and try to possibly spoil their party, but how they overcome it. So Puneet, all yours.
Thank you, Anuj, and welcome to everyone for this wonderful evening. On the opening remarks from a Citroën basis, we've had a pretty good launch. Pretty good reviews have been floating around the various channels in the social media about our car, which is going to be on the roads coming 7th of April. Got a pretty good reviews from the media, and there is a lot of customers which are visiting our 10 dealerships which have opened in all across India. We were supposed to make the debut last year in 2020. Our first sales should have happened in August of 2020, but the Corona did spoil our party. We had to change our ways of doing things, and also to change the launch date of our brand introduction. So we did had a lot of brainstorming done in the organization as to should we go ahead with the launch in August or should we postpone that? And then we came to a conclusion that this is not the right time to introduce a brand, and so we took a step behind and went in for a completely new way of launching the car. Uh, Earlier, when we were supposed to launch a car, there would be one location where the media would be assembled, and there would be 10, 15 cars which the media is going to drive around. But Corona changed that paradigm together, that we had to actually do our media at least 6 different places in the country. So we had our media drive starting in Delhi to Mumbai, Cochin, Bangalore, Ahmedabad, Hyderabad, and then finally came to Chennai. So this was a complete different way of doing the media drives as against what earlier it used to happen. Now, this is all about the brand and about the launch. I wanted to advertise our car so that I can have some customers sitting around the table. So that's the reason I gave a short pitch on the Citroën brand and its car. So coming back to the pandemic and how the finance function worked on that, and also the organization, it was something which was unheard of, that we are going to be sitting at home and working for the office. I think a lot of discussions used to happen. Can I get 1 day work from home? These requests would come to me from various quarters of the department, primarily from my female colleagues because of their family and kids, etc. But suddenly it was a completely different change in the mid-year of 2020. I was asked by people when can I come to the office. So again, see how things change suddenly. So I think what I've learned from this corona is that change is the only constant. So you cannot live in constancy all across, because you never know what's going to happen tomorrow, and how you will have to change the way you have been doing your operations. So flexibility is one thing which was brought in by corona into doing business. Uh, Yes, initial days were pretty hectic. I think we lost time. We lost the sense of 24-hour day, because the hours were elongated. People were working more hours than they would do in a normal way. But what I saw was that there was a motivation, there was a drive from the employee side to give their more than 100% during this period. So I think that's more on the people side when I say that we are.
Puneet, something on say, like, like many a times there are certain things that every function leader wants to implement in his or her department, function, organization, but it doesn't happen. So some reforms you feel you were able to drive, whether through process, people, technology, compliances, which was difficult earlier.
Yeah. So one thing is that if I look at finance department per se, we have so many paper documents to be taken care of, and that used to be an excuse for every operational guy to say that no, I cannot do without papers. And suddenly we don't see papers anymore. Anders was mentioning about how banking has changed over the last 1 year. I didn't sign any paper for making payments, whether it be for forex or for local currency. Like, it was all being done over the emails, over the systems that the banking channels, the bankers had created. So I think again, opportunity and adversity, this is what I would say happened. A lot of thoughts are happening on how we can automate our daily processes. Like, I'm currently looking at going in for RPAs and machine learning within the payables function, so that I can reduce the over dependence upon paper documentation and people feeding in the invoices into SAP and then making the payouts. So I think all these technological advancements are happening, and we are in discussion with various startups who are looking into these RPA applications to be fitted into various SAPs or the Oracles of the world. So I think these are certain things which we definitely in PSA have started working on, and I'm sure my rest of my colleagues would also be working on that.
Absolutely, that's fantastic, Puneet. That's very nice to know. In fact, this reminds me one of the automakers who had recently won one of our awards, WAF awards. The best CIO. Yeah, he had shared that to ensure physical distancing and also to expedite, the trucks entry from their materials get in their factories across the country. What they had done, they had actually implemented RPA and associated technologies for the bills and for the material entry from the material gate. So whenever the truck would, set off from their supplier's premises, an invoice will get generated, which will reach them by email. It will reach the materials gate. The QR code gets scanned automatically. The invoice pops up at the material gate. The person goes out to the truck, just scans the QR code. The truck is in. So a process which was completely paper driven and used to take at least 45 minutes per truck was being done in under 5 minutes per truck. So, yeah. And the reason why they won our WAF award also for all these kind of productivity solutions.
Exactly. So if you look at, I think many of my finance colleagues would be sharing this experience that I've been working on SAP, so I'll be talking more on SAP. Processing one supplier invoice at an average takes about 1.5 to 2 minutes. And imagine in a OEM where you'll get about 50,000 invoices on an average per month. Imagine the human workforce that you require just for your payables function, and this RPA totally eliminates it. Maybe you don't need 10% of the people that you would be required.
Fantastic. Great. So switching gears, coming to Maheen, who's one of the who represents Faurecia, one of the leading companies, suppliers to several OEMs and working in sustainable technologies and clean tech. So Maheen, how was the last 1 year? The things that we have learned and we have already started implementing, in our financial management, and how do you see that year ahead?
Sure. So, as you know that, Faurecia is an autocomp manufacturer in India, and we function by way of 10 plants, manufacturing plants in India. That is one part of the business. And the other part of the business is we do design and development for tools as well as auto components in India. And we have a huge outsourcing hub over here, which is run by technicians. So when COVID struck, the first challenge which we faced was on the manufacturing side, obviously, because we had to shut down the plants. We could not do the manufacturing, and that we had to take a pause there. So that was the first thing. On the technology side, so on the design and development side, I think work boomed, because what our engineers could do sitting here was easier. In fact, we were getting more and more work from Europe and US, because there the pandemic had struck multifold comparatively. And so we were quite booming on that business side, and we were able to take care of it. But coming to the pandemic, yes, we did face quite a challenging time for the initial 2 or 3 months, when the plants needed to be shut down, and we were, looking for ways where we needed to cover up our revenues on the whole. So I think the key takeaway from the pandemic was we did realize that people's motivation was going down, because the plants were not working. A lot of people were just sitting at home and could not do much. So we needed to prioritize on physical and mental health of these employees or these teams. Otherwise, we would face a worse situation when we would be able to resume. So we worked on everything which could be done on employee motivation, right from upskilling, everything, whatever we could do virtually, to digitization, automation, involved them in a lot of areas where we felt that we could automate our processes. Like Puneet said, adversity created a lot of opportunities. So we took the plunge with digitization completely. At that point, I think India was going a key change. E-invoicing was being implemented, and which was a very big change for the industry. And I think it came at the right time because it was high-end digitization. Yes, the finance teams really needed to struggle at the back end to have the entire end-to-end, fix done. Because even we use SAP, and like Puneet said, SAP can sometimes take up to 2 minutes for an invoice processing. But come e-invoicing, we couldn't have that glitch coming. So the finance teams were working more on the automation side of it. So that was the other thing. And I think the third and the most important thing is when the government diktat came that manufacturing could start again. The first challenge which struck us is that the laborers, the MODs, which we say, had already moved back to their hometowns. So even though we had the plants ready to operate, we were ready with all the key processes which were needed to start the plant. We did not have the labor. That was the biggest challenge, and we took almost a month and a half to actually get the MODs back into the plant so that full-fledged production could start. After that, the challenge was that when they would step out, you would have the infections coming in, and the plants needed to be stopped and re-sanitized all the time. So very, very challenging for manufacturing. And that is the time when we decided that, we needed to do something more. Arrange for accommodation facilities within the premise, arrange for food so that they don't need to go out. So there were many such initiatives which were taken by Faurecia to ensure that at least the plants are working at 70 to 80% capacity, if not 100%, so that revenues come back and people are motivated to look at coming back to the plants at least. Of course, offices, we are still not functioning in the same way, but at least we wanted our bread and butter, the manufacturing, to start back.
So how's the situation now, Maheen? How, because like you were mostly in Maharashtra, and there also the situation is not that well. There's already lockdown in Nagpur and Bombay, Pune, they're all affected. So when suddenly cases go on the rise, so what is the agility or the, the resilience which you might have built into the system which helps you respond?
So I think the system is extremely agile. I mean, the processes which are set within the plants and the SOPs, which had been looked at during the COVID period, immediately come into play. And, we actually try to, ensure the plants are working at 100%, provide all the facilities within. So again, we go back to the scenario when we had just started with COVID and people were getting infected. Now again, with the second wave coming in, we are again facing a similar situation of workers being infected, plant managers cannot go out, etc., etc. So we are going back to a situation of arranging for the facilities within the plants. It definitely costs us much more, but at least it ensures the safety of the people, and we are able to honor our customers' demands also. So that is the key takeaway.
That's fantastic. Very nice to know. Really heartening to know that, Maheen, how you've been balancing the financial health of your organization, employee health, and also customer expectations to restart your plants on time, despite the fact that the MODs were away for a month, even when you were ready with all the processes and compliances. Fantastic. Great journey. So switching gears, so now coming to Anders. So friends, Anders has just got back from Europe from a long flight. He's still jet lagged, but his love for the community, for the industry, and he's there. Really kudos for that to you, Anders. So Anders, how's the mood, the tempo back in Europe? And you are the CFO of Volvo Eicher. It's a joint venture. So whenever something like this strikes, a pandemic once in 100 years, so aligning the joint partners or joint venture partners also is extremely important. And the good thing is, a blessing in disguise, that because it was a pandemic, so the concerns were common. The health threats were common. And also during the pandemic, you also got Volvo buses into the Volvo Eicher CV family. So how was all this panning out during the COVID time, and how are you looking at 2021?
I think it's been, how shall I say, exciting year, and a year that we will never, hopefully never experience again. But there is also a lot of good things coming out of this. And I would like to say, Maheen, she talked about motivation. I think it's also very much around, I have to say, around leadership and empathic leadership towards your people when you come into a situation like this. And so we have worked on that. But if I would say something, I would say that you have to look into what kind of values do you want to be driven in a company when you come into a situation like this. And if I talk just for Eicher, we said one very basic principle: we will never let the suppliers down. We will never let our dealers down. And we went to the board and asked for, whatever cash we need in order to secure that all the dealers is up and running. They are happy. The suppliers, we will not use them as a bank. We will pay our part in society, which is not always the case when you come to crisis. And this is the true partnership with our whole supply base. We are a strategic alliances on that. So we have, from the very beginning, we had board meeting every single month. We had management meeting every single day. And I have finance meeting with my team every single day. And we cascaded whatever needs to be done very quickly. And when you came into the situation as we did in the commercial vehicles, where basically you went from quite a good market, or at least the market starting coming back after the financial crisis, and you saw some glimpse of now the market is really coming back. It went to complete standstill. Then you need to fix the basic and excellence in the basic. And for us, it's around cash flow, securing that people are safe, securing that we connect to our people through the whole chain. And one very small thing, I mean, it might sound ridiculous, but for instance, in team meeting, there is a law that we're saying you have to have the camera on. I mean, if I just give you one small example, and why? Because you want to see how the people feel. Are they depressed? Are they stressed? Are they, you can see in the eyes of people. So we were all spread all over the world. I was sitting in Europe. My team was sitting in all over India, but we still felt very connected all the time. So connectivity with the team, we're in this together. I think it's a very good thing. And I have to also address what Maheen said about motivation. I mean, we did yoga classes, these kind of things. I mean, you might laugh about it and say, why, should a finance team do things like that? Why are you doing that? It's a very good reason. People are engaging so much to support the company. And it's a bit of a family thing. And it has really boosted energy, these kind of things that is a little bit odd for finance, a CFO to drive that.
So, Anders, what are the top 3 things possibly one can learn in financial management from yoga?
No, from yoga, that's a lot. I will not spend more time on that, but I'm a big fan of yoga. Any exercise is good, I think.
All right. So.
But I also say that I think now we have been under this tremendous pressure, I think all of us, for a very long period. And now we need to open up in a very smart way to really secure that the good things coming out of this pandemic way of working, trusting people, taking off layers, close them. We have closed layers like anything. We give the authority out in the organization to have a speedy process and securing that the dealers get their incentive, all these nitty-gritty things. The system needs to work, and then you cannot have people running around with paper to one another. You have to trust people in the organization, and that is a learning that I think all of us have been faced, because the control measurement is more now towards, we believe in some people. That is not saying that we should be out of control, but as a finance people, we also need to take that into aspect that we have to empower people down the line. At least we needed to do that. Otherwise, it wouldn't have worked. And it had so far turned out extremely well. People have been raised up by this and taking much bigger responsibility than we maybe believe that they could take. So there are a lot of good things coming out of this, believe it or not.
Absolutely.
And of course, people safety, I think it goes without saying. We have so many workshops out there, and we have a new emission standard coming, BS6, into the market coming in March. And how do you train, 600 plus workshop across India? You cannot only do that on Teams, but we took all kind of safety measures to be ready for our customer and for the BS6 trucks to hit the Indian road. So far, it has gone really well, and now the market is picking up. I have to say that. Maybe we come to that.
Because back during the lockdown, and even when the unlockdown was unraveling, several of the transporters associations had come out with their announcements that 2021, 2020 and 2021, they will not be going for any brand new CV. They will only be buying pre-owned ones. So that was a big jolt to the CV industry. Yeah. And a couple of months one could see in the sales figures too. But yes, now when I think, does it all boil down to the consumer demand? Because once the consumer starts buying,
no, but I think the funny thing or the tragic thing about this corona is that it's not like all businesses has been down. I have to make that clear. There are some businesses that are going really well in the corona. I mean, I don't have all these businesses on my fingertips, but when I talk to people, when I go around in society, some people are making good money in corona and they boom. I mean, it sounds very strange. Obviously, e-commerce, these kind of things, it's a new, it's not like people are stopped eating just because the restaurant are down, right? I mean, these kind of things. So I think we see a new pattern, and some businesses are, of course, extremely badly hit by the corona, but some businesses are also doing pretty well. And one thing is for sure, you need to transport goods, and then you need a good truck, and we have the best truck.
So it's nice to see that our leading CFOs are using the WAF platform to promote their products. It's nice to know that, and nice to see that.
I will not do that more, but I have to say, since my new friend here from Citroën did some promotion, I have to do that also.
Yeah, absolutely. So there is a CMO within every CFO too. So, all right. So switching gears, coming to Surendra. So Surendra, the auto component people can, supply to the automaker, the OEM. The OEMs can quickly assemble, make a finished product, give it to the dealer. But at the end of the day, if there is no demand, it gets stuck at the dealer inventory. For everybody, it's very easy to, put, pack, assemble, and ship it to you. But if it doesn't move from your stock, hey, all hell breaks loose. So what has been the journey last 1 year, Surendra? How, when the inventory gets stuck, what kind of support you got? What are the innovations that you implemented? Where do you see the year panning out?
So to start with, as I mentioned the earlier comment that there was some industry working during the pandemic period also, they were making the money. So now that money they are spending on the cars. So we are getting benefited out of that. So to start with, what we done when this sudden pandemic announced and the things this happened, knowing that if you look at the last 2-3 years history of the dealers, there was the big problem in the dealer fraternity is the maintaining the cash flow and having the strong balance sheet. So the movement is started because we were not having any sales in the 2 months period of April and the May month. What we done as a finance, we were concentrating only on the cleaning of our balance sheet and making our cash flow strong. So a lot of money which was stuck in the insurance claim or various recovery, because if you are in retail business, you should not be having that in your books, ideally. Because I'm been in retail from last 20 years. Earlier I was in data retail. So in retail industry should not be having any debtors. So when I joined this industry, I say a lot of debtors was there. No doubt there was a different debtors on the different things. So we started cleaning up that and we got good cash flow. It happened forcefully, but it happened for good ultimately, because the objective of that to sustain ourselves for the next 2 to 3 months or 4 months. We were not knowing how long this period will go. That purpose we were generating the cash flow. That's the thought process started. But after say 10 days or 15 days, we realized, oh, this is what we need to do long back. So we started with that, and we have made a good progress. And later on, what we have done become a process, become a habit of the each and every finance person or each and every operation person. Like we started the weekly review on the recovery side, on the outstanding side, or the cash flow position, which is working now. Earlier we were not having that practices. So that's the one change we have seen. The negotiation or the talks with the OEM, the condition was there in the OEM in front of the stock, the demo vehicles conditions or the finance relaxation, those all become more and more flexible. That's helped dealer to have a better liquidity position and then a better support to liquidate the stock. The one more thing which is help, and it is everybody was telling a BS4 liquidation thing, that BS4 is actually help the industry. In my view, it's helped the industry because the long stock which were there, the aging stock was there in the system, we are able to clear in the month of March, being the BS6 launch. So that's again, in the current position, we were not having the stock more than 4 months or 5 months aging, if I look at it. So that's the good point we have. Coming to the digital platform, in most of the organization, you see the finance department, if look at any digital transformation, it comes always in the end, because always on the marketing or the sales or the front things, any digital requirement comes, that will be on the first place. But what happened during this period is because completely 2 months we were not having any single sales. So everybody in the system was focusing more on the finance one, because everybody worked for us literally in that period. So we have rolled out a lot of policies like the vendor invoice verification automation. Then the total review meetings are only now happening on the Zoom or Team. Earlier it was availability was a big concern if you are having the physical meeting. Now when you are having Zoom meeting or Team meeting, nobody says no, I'm not available. So everybody is available, everybody is participating in the meeting. We can run through the presentation or Excel spreadsheet, everything to the management, getting into the detail. This is the lockdown time we have done our budgeting is in a detail level with the deep dive. That will help almost 15 to 20% cost optimization by looking in the details. Maybe Chandan can help me out on this later on, maybe support on this. If retail, I'm in retail from last 20 years now, in the car retail from last 2 years. In the retail business, the more you go in detail, so we were always saying retail is all about detail. So the more you go in the detail, more you go in the line by line detail, you will yourself will find a lot of cost, a lot of things you are spending which you are not getting any value addition. No doubt you cannot cut the cost which is impacted directly to my sales or my employee and all. But yes, there are so many costs which is redundant or not required in the business.
So basically, Surendra, those 2 months when there was no sale happening and the bills were coming in, that might have opened your eyes. Yeah. Why are these bills still coming when I'm not selling anything? But just tell me one thing, out of curiosity, like even Anders had mentioned that, we should not use our suppliers as a bank, especially not as a 0% loan,
Yeah.
product. So when during those 2 months when the sale was zilch or close to zilch and the suppliers might have been falling off for their payments, so, sir, our payment is due or this. So what would have been the mood or, the temperament at the organization?
It's very supportive. It's very supportive on the supplier front and the landlord front. The biggest support which we got from the landlord across, because we were operating almost 100 plus locations. Our landlord, when we started discussing with them or asking the rent support and everything, they are very open and very supportive. They said, okay, these 2 months you need not require to pay, or you pay in the deferred things. So a lot of support from the supplier front. Yes, there is a supplier like the manpower supplier who has to pay at the end of the salary to the staff and all, we cleared it on time. But yes, there was a period like in a 2 months, we said, instead of one go, we will make it in the 50, 25 or 25 payment kind of thing, which they have agreed.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough. So that's okay. Yeah, so I'm sure because you are in the retail and retail is all about detail and detail is all about your landlords and who would have been, of course, because a lot of landlords are, that's their mainstay, that's their only income most of the times.
Right.
So renting out commercial properties and so it would have been tough. So switching gears, so getting Chandan in the conversation, he has been patiently listening to all of us and I'm sure his mind would have been buzzing with thoughts and ideas and which cost-saving innovation to apply to the industry. So Chandan, auto components, automakers, auto dealers, retail, you have it all here. So all over to you.
So thank you so much, Anuj. So I am the odd man out here. So I sit on the other side of the table. And the company which I run, it's a Blue Consulting, which I co-founded in 2005. It's been now 16 years. And in my earlier avatar, I had headed the finance and accounts function of an oil and gas company. It's a Halliburton logging services. And in the last 15, 16 years, I had the privilege of working with the CFOs of mid to large size of the companies. So what we specialize in Blue Consulting is that we work very closely with the CFOs and we help to increase their managerial bandwidth by taking over the finance and accounts function, because the routine which are there, so those are usually managed by us. So in the last 15, 16 years, I had, as I said, we have worked with a lot of big companies, mid to large size of the companies. And when the COVID struck, so that time we were planning to open 3 offices more in India. So we right now have 2 offices, one in Noida, one is in Hyderabad. So the good thing happened that fortunately we didn't open, in Bangalore and Mumbai and Pune. So these 3 were almost at the very advanced stage. And in last 1 year, the scenario had changed so dramatically that now the CFOs doesn't insist, the service provider needs to have a local presence. Because in last 1 year, we had a clients from Bangalore, from Pune, who had signed up earlier. They were, insisting that we need to have our office over there. So that way, it's been a very different experience for us. And initially, similarly, what Surendra was mentioning, that initially 1 or 2 months, we were also clueless, what to do. Now the pandemic has taken on all the businesses of the client has come to a standstill. So what I thought that if I can contribute to the CFO community with whatever little knowledge I have, so let me try to do that. And very reluctantly, I created before that, I talked to around 30, 40 CFOs, friends, and, the clients, and everybody was concerned about how to reduce cost. And they said, maybe we have some experience, but we don't have a framework through which we can reduce the cost. So I thought, let me create something and share it with them. So I created this online masterclass. It's very interesting. So, and very reluctantly, let me admit that, very reluctantly, I thought maybe the CFO might say, these are very normal things which we all know and we have done it. So nothing special what you are sharing with. But to my surprise, I led 4 masterclass and it was attended by 1,000+ CFO and CEOs across India. And the response was so amazing that I became overwhelmed. And I got to know what Anders was saying and Surendra was saying, that the real deal is in the basics. We actually tend to forget that what are the basics, and we always try to create some complex. This is a conditioning which we have from last 10, 15 years, or because of the technology, automation, and a lot of other factors. So what I created a framework, and when I shared that with the CFOs, they said, these are the normal things, but the way you have collated it and given to us. So just to give you one example. So I created a framework called EROS, E-A-R-O-S, EROS. So it simply says that you look at each cost from 5 angles. Can you eliminate it? Can you automate it? Can you reduce it? Can you simplify it? Or can you outsource it? So virtually each ledger expense or each cost item, if you pass through this test, EROS test, then the CFOs came back to me and they said they had huge cost reduction just because of that. The next question I was having with them, out of these 1,000+ CFOs and the CEOs, I asked them very candidly, I told them, whatever cost reduction you have done, tell me very candidly, are these cost reduction efforts sustainable? And you would be shocked to know that 63% CFO and the CEOs admitted that most of the costs which we have reduced forcefully will come back within 6 to 12 months of the period from the back door. So what I got to know from them, and they all agreed that cost reduction needs to be part and parcel of our culture, because we need not to wait for a pandemic to strike and then we need to get our act together in order. So, the sustainability is the main question which we need to ask as a CFO, that whether whatever cost we are reducing, is it sustainable, or is it just for a few quarters to, improve our results? Because there are a lot of listed companies who are pressurized to have the better results every time. So that was the key learning which I got after discussing with a lot of CFOs. And I was sharing with the discussion that there are approximately 5,000 listed companies in India. And out of that 2,700 who has, shared their results, only 2% there was increase in sales. And there was a huge increase in the profitability by 57%, which if you look at is not sustainable fundamentally. If the cost which has been reduced, if it is those reactive measures and those are not sustainable, then definitely it will show maybe next 2 to 3 quarters. So that's what my experience been in the last, I think I would say 7-8 months. And it's been like amazing working with. And one more thing I want to share, in earlier, when I used to talk to CFOs in my sales speech, I used to mention that when you outsource, you have a privilege to scale down or scale up depending on the situations, which never happened in last 15 years. So first time in pandemic, we had our food and beverages clients, which were badly hit. They were running big restaurants. So they could scale down their team from maybe 12 to 2 people. And they could reduce their maybe the monthly, because if they had the in-house team, it would have been very difficult for them. So that was again a very interesting experience I had during the pandemic.
That's
a question on that. Your customers were happy because their cost came down.
Yeah.
But your revenue would have also come down.
Oh, definitely. But in our case, Puneet, in our case, the good thing what happened, because we were industry agnostic, we are not specializing into one particular industry. So few of our clients, which were bigger and they were listed company, their business rolled.
Especially, okay, so you could able to
exactly we could deploy and especially the companies. And what I could gather that in our, especially in my business, in our business, we now are looking actively at businesses which have rural presence, because any business which having a good rural demand in this pandemic, they had made the best business case in the pandemic.
I'll just like to add one thing over here. Chandan, just taking a clue as to what you said. I think this pandemic taught us to make more costs variable. Shift your fixed cost more to variability. Wonderful. Because once you make them variable, you reduce your break even, you reduce your dependence on the cost, and that's where the backdoor entry of the cost would be restricted.
Yeah.
Great. That's a fine point. So making it variable to prevent the backdoor entry and also to expedite the break even, especially in a company like yours, which is just about to launch the brand and its first product in the country. So I think that will be extremely relevant for you.
Yeah. Yeah. One more point, if you allow me for a minute, Anuj, if I could share that, that's very relevant and maybe people will find they can relate with the experience. In the pandemic, when I was running that masterclass, what I shared with them, which first we experimented in our company, that this time we invited the people at the bottom of the pyramid, the employees who were drawing the least salary. We went them and we asked them, what are the ideas which you have through which we can contain our cost? And we were thrilled and we were surprised. The kind of ideas these people can give is like astonishing. Because what I could understand, and when these CFOs gone back and they applied, because the reason is that these front level employees or the low level of employees, they are very close to the business realities. And sometimes the discussions which happens in the boardroom they don't have the right business realities with them when they take the decision to reduce the cost. So, and I call this strategy as gold at the bottom. So you have huge gold which is hidden at the bottom. So if you uncover that, one, that the resistance will be least, and they would be sharing their ideas, and most of the ideas they share have a practical thing.
Well said. Totally
That's
agree
a
with you.
very interesting point. Yeah.
In fact, this reminds me of my Honda days close to 20 years back. So 2001, when I joined Honda Cars as an executive, entry-level executive. So during my plant tour, our Japanese expats had shown the exact same thing, what they had been doing for the last few years. There was this QC circle, NN circle, Kaizen, which they used to learn, which they used to run for the line associates. So that used to be a contest of cost saving, of innovation, of Kaizen, continuous improvement for the line associates only, in every department, vehicle quality, paint shop, body shop, everywhere. And the best ideas would win, and then they would get implemented. So when they would get implemented, the resistance was least because they were their own idea. There was ownership, and there was rewards and recognition also to add to it.
Exactly.
Great. So, Maheen, you want to add something? In fact, we are just 6 minutes away from the program.
So if you allow me one thing.
Sure. We can all give our closing remarks and also our anything we want to say right now. Please feel free.
We don't call it as a cost reduction or cost cutting. We call it as a cost optimization. Because cost optimization is really sustain, as Chandan is mentioning. You need to look at the sustainability. What we did in this pandemic period, in the two of the showroom we recently opened. One is in Mumbai Jeep Thane, which is we cut down the existing cordon of the existing Mercedes-Benz showroom and open the Jeep showroom. So that's one we did, and it's in India it's a new thing totally in the dealer segment. If you look at all the dealers is having a single showrooms or single brand operating showroom, but landmark presence in the multi-brand, we done this new things. And in Punjab also in the Renault showroom we have opened the Jeep showroom, again resizing the Renault showroom and open a Jeep showroom in the same. So that's kind of the cost optimization we are doing in the business in recent time.
Beautiful. And also the automakers are supporting you. That's also
absolutely. So now we have 3-4 locations. Even the workshop also in Thane workshop we have 2 brand operating, Jeep and the Renault together. In Andheri workshop again Jeep and Renault together we are operating.
All right, great. That's fantastic. Yeah, Maheen, please feel free for your
So what we learned is that any amount of BCP you have ready for a pandemic, it goes for a toss. In this kind of a situation which we saw, no BCP worked. At least for plants, it did not work. So I think we need to be continuously innovating and strategizing, especially on the BCP front, because there was one part of our business which could go online immediately, but the other part just could not. I mean, we had to wait for things to regularize. The other thing is what we saw is communication was a key in the entire organization. If you don't talk to your internal and external stakeholders, it could become a very big challenge because the businesses were plummeting at that point of time, and if you don't keep up to the sanctity of your employees at that time, it could get challenging. But yes, as a finance team, we did whatever we could. I mean, we had already, much before COVID, we had already started implementing RPA. So we were, in fact, it just gave a further boost, with COVID. RPA we implemented everywhere, AP, AR, JV, everywhere. In fact, I think one of the classic examples was stock audit, which is always done physically in India. And it was a classic example of how everybody used RFID to do virtual stock audit. So it was one of the best innovations, because even the stat auditors were struggling at that time, that how do we close your books without actually doing an inventory audit. So a lot of things came to the fore over a period of time, and I think finance industry really put their best foot forward, whether you talk about costs, whether you talk about controlling those costs, tax planning, capital structures. I think we looked at the whole balance sheet and P&L in and out to see what could be done to ensure that the financial health of the organization is maintained. and it continues to be sustainable. Now what I feel is, as finance professionals, we need to look at sustainability over a period of time, and not only look at one time reduction in cost. Just like Chandan was saying, we need to get into the depth of everything. And yeah, the gold is the employees who are actually at the fore, or who are at the lowest rung, because they are so close to the process that they can tell you anything and everything which is required to actually reduce those costs in a sustainable way.
Yeah.
So those are my concluding remarks.
That's fantastic, and it's very nice to know closing the books without a offline stock audit and being done digitally using RFID and technology and RPA. That's very nice to know. So, Anders, your closing remarks?
No, I think it's so much learning coming out of this year. I think also the finance community, I think it has also given us the opportunity to come closer to large. I think many of the finance people, the traditional way of finance, that you are sitting in a locked room and you come out with a P&L, that is gone. That is history. So now at least my 194 finance people in Eicher, I've told them, go out there. There is not one area where you cannot challenge and support. So don't limit yourself now, because you have a lot of learning in terms of how everything functions, and you can support on the sales side, engineering. So broaden your view to much more holistic perspective when it comes to finance. And that has encouraged also the team. There is a lot of people who has grown during this pandemic, because we have been, as I said before, we have let them take. We have given them the empowerment, and we have let them take decision, and that we should keep. The good things about that we should keep.
Beautiful. That's fantastic. And there's something on like you acquired or got Volvo buses in the Volvo Eicher CV company. So that would have also required during the normal course of business, it will require due diligence and audits and a lot of meetings. How did you manage that in this time?
Yeah, that's an interesting thing, that you buy a big company like Volvo, or big company, but at least a known company like Volvo buses in a pandemic situation. But I think, again, first of all, it's a trust issue between two partners that has been going on for so many years, of course, between Eicher Motors and the Volvo Group. So the deal were between two known partners who wanted this to happen, and we have extremely good relations. So that is, of course, number one. But then, of course, you had all the legal documents. You have all the, you need to go and see that the assets are actually there, and you have valuation plan, all these kind of things. We did it by good cooperation, by also, again, trusting people. We don't need to send, one auditor from Delhi. We can actually believe in that valuation company that we have closely in Hoskoti, outside Bangalore, if I just take a few examples. So, when there are no other ways, then you find a way. If you understand what I mean, So it's if the option is that we should not do this deal, that is not an option. So how do you do it? That is coming not only to how we close that deal in a very professional way, but it comes to everything. Stupid thing, small thing, take travel expenses. If there are people who have been out traveling and we have to reimburse them, and they cannot hand in the paper, how do we do it? Of course, we scan it and send it in, and then we sign the scanned paper and pay our people. But before, no, you cannot do that. You have to come to the paper. Forget that. It's history. It's old school. We have to. All these things we need to now, really, really make sure that, and also get the benefit of, and also that we also shrink. So going forward, I think finance, if I say post-corona, we will have maybe less people working in finance, but definitely in transaction, but we will need more skilled people in, but much less. That is I mean, I believe in that even before Corona, by the way, but Corona has really proven it, that you need to have a very strong team, but you don't need that many. You need people who can actually take a decision and take lead in certain things.
All right. So Anders, you're saying that on the weekend, your team's going to get goosebumps right away.
They should all be listening in there now.
Okay. So Puneet, your closing remarks?
Actually, one of my point was this, what Anders said, that coming years, you'll see more strategic finance happening rather than the operational finance, because operational finance is going to be taken over by the machine learning or artificial intelligence like RPAs or OCRs. So I think that that's where the stress should be built up, not only from a corporation standpoint, but from a country standpoint as well. So skills have to be developed to ensure that the new era of agility is taken into account at the education level itself. So having said that, I think the pandemic has created a lot of new avenues for everyone. Cost reduction, we've spoken a lot about it. I think that's always been at the horizon of any CFO, but this pandemic has given us a way to do it, and in much more flexible, agile fashion and more sustainable fashion. Today, I can counter my sales and marketing team. If they come that they need more travel budget, I would say that, okay, guys, you can still do a lot of meetings online rather than going and traveling across the world. So these are the things that needs to be put onto the table, and wherein we need to advocate to our counterparts in the other departments that, guys, things can be done in a different way. And it's not that I want to cut your budget, but it's just that I want to maintain your budgets. So these activities are going to happen, and I think that's the new way of looking into the finance department altogether. It becomes more of a strategic rather than a bean counter.
Absolutely.
Can I add, Anuj, sorry for interrupting here, but can I add one more thing?
Sure.
I forgot one important thing, at least that is also one thing that I'm impressed about. And that is the pedagogic part of the finance people, because it's no point in having all the answers if you cannot convey the message. So I think there is a skill set, the traditional, you can say, if I say bean counter, quite much, but how to communicate and also convey messages and the rationale why things need to be done. That is a very, very important function for finance people. Otherwise, we will never come under the skin on the process and the business way of business. So I'm looking very much into my team that they should be skilled in conveying the message and also train others people to think in the same way. Otherwise, it's no point to have the most excellent analysis in the world if they cannot convey the message. So that is also something. Sorry for I forgot it. I had it on my list.
Yeah. So as I mentioned in the flow also, if we get a brainwave, it cannot wait. We should share right away, lest we forget later. So yes, communication. It can never be overemphasized. And yeah, when our sales and marketing teams come to us for more travel budget, we can always say, hey, go for a walk, man. Stop the travel.
Rather than traveling, go for a walk.
Okay, so Surendra, your closing remarks, please.
So one thing in the finance function, I would say, and the down the level and all the team members, is now the self-driven things has been created, because during last 7-8 months, people are working from home and work are completed on the targeted time. One of the example in my team member, he walked almost 2 to 4 kilometers to just get the network facility and making the payments. Nobody asked him to do that.
Wow.
So it's a self-driven thing has been created. The role of the finance function is also changed from a controlling department to a support department, or the core strategic department. So now we are being the frontline process-driven department. We are making all the processes of the company. we are now looking at the innovative department. We are doing a lot of innovation in our dip function. So you will see in the near future, you will see a lot of automation, a lot of digitization will happen in the finance function. Now the payments, you can see that there is a different lot of payment type is also there in the market. Now everyone has started using the Google Pay or UPI, other UPI payments. We have all those facility in our showroom and workshop as well. So a lot of digital things will be, digital transformation will happen in the finance area in the coming years.
Absolutely. I think the most important key takeaway for the CFOs, the finance department per se, what I feel is the sheer evolution what the finance department has come through. We are not just talking P&L or figures or audits. We are talking about empowering people. Today in the discussion, we have spoken about communication. Maheen spoke about mental health more than financial health. Anders spoke so much about communicating to your teams and empowering them. And we were also promoting our products. We were donning the hats of the sales guy of our organization. We were talking so much of technology, so much of technology we have spoken about. So I think
what we missed, sorry to interject, what we missed was the important role that the IT team played in this whole 1 year. The kind of facilities that were provided with so much of flexibility and agility by them. Like thousands of people on the same server working, using limited bandwidth, working on audio or video. So hats off to them as well.
Absolutely. Fighting cyber attacks, which went through the roof as well in the last 1 year. Absolutely. So Chandan, your closing remarks before we hand it over to Kiran ma'am.
Yeah, so the one thing I would like to share, one analogy, in auto, because all of us, you are from auto industry, that most of the time finance is looked as a hindrance, or, we try to stop things from other departments. And so we are like the finance department is like a brake in a car. So whenever you talk about brake, if you will ask what is the function of a brake, people will say it will stop. But I say it other way around. With a good braking system in your car, you can drive at as much speed as you want. So we need to establish that relationship with the other departments so that they don't see us as a hindrance or somebody who is stopping their initiative, but rather than that we are allowing them. We are like a seat belt. We are like a safety net, all the compliance, whatever we do, so that they are taken care of. The second thing I want to highlight that one study I was recently, reading, and it's highlighted that in most of the companies, less than 12% of the data which is collected is analyzed. Like less than 12% of the data which a company in today's digital environment is collecting are not being analyzed. So my suggestion or the closing remarks is that these days the CFO, to become a strategic or a business CFO, they need to invest heavily into people who have that FP&A acumen, so that they can marry the non-financial number with the financial number and create something which can empower the decision making. So that's what I wanted to share.
Fantastic. Great analogy, Chandan. So we are the safety nets, so we are the airbag, ABS.
Undoubtedly.
We are the seatbelt of the organization. And see, at the end of the day, we can all look at ourselves, whenever there is anything new which our organization needs to do, the board, the MD, they look to us. They look up to us that, hey, can we go ahead with this? I hope there will not be any problem. Can I go ahead and acquire this company? Can I go ahead and do this new innovation? So we are the safety net. We are the ones who make it happen at the end of the day. Finance is finance. You can never overemphasize. All right. So thanks a ton, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, for this beautiful, stellar program, for sharing your thoughts. And I'm sure your ideas, your thoughts will leave our community, the industry, mobility, automotive empowered. And I feel that even if they can, as Chandan said, that less than 12% data gets analyzed, I say that even if they can action 12% of these wonderful thoughts, they shall be home. So thanks a ton, and over to you, Kiran ma'am.
Well, I'd like to thank Mr. Anders, Mr. Chandan Goyal, Mr. Puneet Sabharwal, Ma'am Maheen Lampwala, Mr. Surendra Agarwal, of course, our dear friend Gerald Lewis, and of course, Anuj, the brain behind this whole event. You people had a whole lot of ordeals, trials, and tribulations that you went through during the pandemic. You've come out a lot more wiser. You're sharing your wisdom, you're sharing your experiences. I do hope that all the viewers who are watching us worldwide have had much to gain. I'd request everybody who's tuned into this program to please send their feedback, to please send their comments and suggestions. What is it that you'd like to have the next session on? What is it that you'd like our experts, our pundits to share with you in the coming roundtables? We'd love to hear from you. Once again, on behalf of WAF Forum, I'd like to thank each and every participant and each and every viewer. It was a pleasure attending this session. It leaves us a lot wiser financially. And of course, what really touched my heart personally was the compassion that you all individually, each one of you have shown towards your employees. You rock. Thank you, folks.
Beautiful. You
Thank
rock.
You rock. You rock.
You rock. You rock. Thank you so much. Thanks,
you,
Dan.
guys.
You rock.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Hey, bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.